Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Amber Unfiltered. Tonight I'm going to review the latest episode of Yellowstone, Season 5, Episode 12. But before I do that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you want to cash at me at Amber Unfiltered Show, that'd be greatly appreciated. So I am very excited to do this review for you guys. This episode was the bomb.com. It was so emotional. It was so dramatic. It was so touching. Like, oh my God, there's so much to cover. I actually had just started doing another review of this before I got up until like 19 or 20 minutes in recording, and I realized I was talking so fast. I was just so excited. I was all over the place. So I was like, okay, I'm going to re-record because I love you guys and I want this to be a clear review. So if I get really excited, if I get really loud and animated, I apologize. I'm just so ready to cover this. If you're not watching the show, please give it a chance. It is a really great show. This is the last season and there's only 2 episodes left. So there is so many loose ends. I'm so curious to see how they tie it up, who, what, when, where, why. Like, I'm excited for all the things. So I'm going to use my tablet here to kind of cover some of the notes that I took, and we'll go from there. So the episode opens with Teeter and her boyfriend Colby. They're talking on the phone. Teeter is in Texas, Colby's in Montana. So he tells her he loves her, and she's like, what? And he's like, oh, like as a friend, like as a homie. And she's like, you just said you fucking love me, like just admit it. And it was a very touching, warm moment. It felt like my heart was like melting like butter. It was so sweet. And then she like starts asking about the state of the ranch, and he's like, hey, if you've got big plans, start working on them, start your execution plan, because the ranch could be here today, gone tomorrow. And right at that scene, I was like, he's going to die. I was like, whenever characters make big plans or they talk about the future like that, that typically means somebody's going to die. And the person, I don't want to say the person trying to make the plans, but the person, it could be the person trying to make the plans or the person who wants to involve the other one in the plans usually dies. I think it depends on the show and the importance or significance of the character. But I literally turned to my husband and I was like, he's going to die. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, I think he was just like, I'm locked into the episode. He is not very vocal when he's watching TV. I am. And I told him, I was like, watching TV or movies or anything of visual form with Black people is the funniest thing because we are so vocal. We tell it like it is. We're very funny with our commentary. And I was like, it's probably a good thing we didn't go to your parents today, because usually we go to their house to watch the episode and then I come home and review it. But tonight I just did not feel like going out, and neither did he. We were kind of just like couch potatoes. We were like, this weather is trash. It's cold. We don't feel like going out. We have food at home. Like, unless we really absolutely need to go out, like we're on fire or something, or the dog's on fire, like, not happening. I'm gonna sit my fat ass right on this couch and enjoy my pizza. So, let me keep moving forward. So, let me see. Lloyd and Carter are cleaning up in the bathroom and they talk about the ranch and its fate. And there's a lot of conversations. There's different conversations with different characters about the ranch. What will they do next? And Lloyd's like, oh, there's outfits, for cowboys, outfits are like other ranches basically, or other farms and things like that. He's like, there's other outfits that you could go to. Like, there's some in Texas, there's some in Mexico, but Lloyd is a real one. He's like, I'm not finna budge. He was like, Texas is too motherfucking hot. And I was like, bitch, you're not wrong about that. My birth mom is actually from Texas, and we used to go there in the summer and things like that, or spring break. And it is really fucking hot. Like, I love the heat, but I was like, that Texas heat is built different, baby. So Rip walks in and he tells Lloyd to break out the ledger. He's like, get the books out. I want to start seeing where we can cut back costs, but also make profit, bring profit in. So they're talking about potentially selling bulls and heifers to kind of build up that cash pile in case of emergency, which probably means they could use it to fight any organizations or fight in court to keep the land, or even sell or get a portion of it and try to maintain that integrity of whatever they do get to keep or own. So Rip decides on a whim to sell the entire herd in Texas, even though Lloyd is kind of like, boss, I don't know. But he's like, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do it. Lloyd is very loyal. I'll give him that. Actually, all the guys are, and women, Teeter as well. So next we see Travis, who is played by the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan, in a corral at the 4-6's ranch. And Jimmy comes in and he's riding this horse that's giving him a run for his money. Like, the horse is just bucking and Jimmy's just like, what's going on? And then Travis gives like a whole speech about how stupid he is and how the horse that he picked, like, he should have known like something was off. He was like, also look at the way that you set up the horse's like equipment, especially in the mouth area. He was like, you just a dumb son of a bitch. I was just like, I'm screaming. I was like, not the owner cussing the actor out. I was like, that scene was probably so funny to film. and just like a nice little memory, because it's like a running joke that Jimmy is a complete idiot, but he's like our lovable idiot, you know, he's like the village idiot, but you're like, just come here, I'll get you a plate of food, like you're gonna get cussed out, but I'm gonna still take care of you. So Rip calls Travis and tells him that John Dutton died. And he's like, hey, can you help us? He's like, we need to move some of the horses to free up some cash. And he's like, I got you. He's like, hey, can you help sell any animals? And he's like, hey, don't rush. And Rip's like, I need it like yesterday. And he's like, no, don't rush the sale. Let me do this my way. I got you. I'll make sure we sell to the highest bidder and we get you the highest dollar or price point. But let me do this right. It's the least I can do. So then Travis asked Rip if he has told Jimmy about John passing. And Rip is so surprising in his response. He's like, hey, I don't have the heart. And I was like, oh, so he does have a soft spot, because Rip is very tough. He's very macho. He's very masculine. And he also is a straight shooter. He gonna cuss you out. He gonna tell you get your ass in gear. Like, he don't give a fuck. He don't care if you crying. He don't care if you hurt. Like, get your ass up and work and contribute. Like, Rip is honorable in that way, but I respect people who tell it like it is versus beating around the bush. I need you to be straight with me. Do you like me? Do you not? Tell me what you need from me. Tell me what you don't. So it was kind of touching to see Rip be soft or tender about Jimmy, because he knew how much John meant to him. And John meant a lot to Rip. For both men, actually, he was like a role model. He was like a father figure. He was like the pinnacle of success in terms of being a cowboy and being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. Like, John was so powerful. Like, who wouldn't aspire to be like him in that world or that realm? So he's like, I got you, I'll tell him. So Travis pulls Jimmy to the side and he tells him that John has passed. What's interesting, let me back up, is that Travis first gives him good news to kind of soften the blow, which I actually really respected. So he's like, I'm giving you the week off. He's like, go kiss that pretty brunette wife of yours. Because he kind of had called him out earlier. He was like, you've been off your game. Are you missing home? Are you missing your wife? Like, you're the one that wanted to be a horse trainer. Like, get your ass in gear. If you don't want to be here, you want to go do a lower paying job, a lesser job, then go do that. Be my guest. But don't be BSing. I took a chance on you, so make it worth my while. So then Jimmy is like, no, I want this. I'm all in. I'll make the sacrifices. Like, just give me time. Like, I got you. So then he breaks the news that John passed. And Jimmy's pretty sad because John was one of the few who had faith in him, because Rip was busting his balls like every time he turned around. But John was like, no, I see potential. I see value. Even though the way that Jimmy got recruited to the ranch wasn't the best, he did become a man there. He grew from a boy to a man, excuse me. And he grew stronger as a character, and his integrity, his personality, like, he just kind of flourished there. He kind of spread his wings, as you know, they say. So Jimmy gets on a horse. He gets back on a horse, and he's like, John was a cowboy. He would have rode. He would have, fulfilled his manly duties, his cowboy duties. He wouldn't have missed work. Like, he just would have pushed through. So I said, there's a note I wrote in here that said, it's funny they're trying to make John seem noble, but he wasn't. I think he was, but his nobility was it was to his benefit or gain, like to make his image or his personality or character or likeness seem more than it really was. Because I think he really was concerned with self. He was very self-interested as a character. I do think that he was noble in the sense of he really did put family first, but then at the same time, I'm like, he put his kids in positions of power to benefit him in the long run. Those connections helped him whenever he needed to pull strings or pull favors. So I kind of feel iffy about that. But I also wonder if they're trying to pay homage to Kevin Costner because he's not there, because Kevin Costner is a Hollywood titan. He's a legend. And I guess they're trying to just, wrap up or tie up those loose ends, I would say, or put a pretty bow on it, I would say. So the next scene, we see Jamie talking to law enforcement at his house. They're asking him about Sarah. They're like, hey, we know you two were involved. Like, can we get some of her belongings? And he's like, well, what do you need it for? And he starts getting all like suspicious, and he's like, oh yeah, there's a suitcase upstairs. But then he logically thinks like, oh shit, there could be incriminating evidence tying me and her to something, that I shouldn't be caught up in. So he starts stalling. He starts being nasty with the lead detective, because there's two detectives there, but the lead one that's doing all the questioning, he just starts getting spicy with him. And he's like, well, I'm the fucking attorney general, like whoop-de-whoop. Like, he starts throwing his weight around, and it's like, well, you need a warrant, you need this. And they're like, well, you let us into your house. So that basically was the warrant. You gave us verbal consent, like that. We don't need anything else. We don't need a piece of paper because you already gave us, the okay. So the detectives are like, hey, we're treating this differently because you know, there was no forced entry, there was no signs of struggle, it was just a clean shot. So to us, this leads us to believe this was a target, because he's like, well, the police said this. He's like, yeah, but we're the detectives, we actually detect, we investigate. So they're like, all right, fine, we're gonna be back with the warrant. No sooner they shut the fucking door, baby, he runs up the stairs like fucking Usain Bolt. And I'm like, bitch, you couldn't be any more obvious. Like, at least wait till the fucking they peel out the driveway. Like, let the smoke clear first. Like, he was so, I was like, I wish they had turned back around and came in just to see his raggedy ass run up the stairs. He's such a snake to me. Like, I'm so ready for him to die. Like, this episode, I was like, when the fuck they gonna kill him? Like, I'm ready for him to die. Like, I need to see it. My mother-in-law and my husband think that they're gonna take Jamie to the train station. I said, no, he deserves like the most brutal death, because what he did was completely unforgivable. Even though he didn't kill his dad, he had a hand in orchestrating it. He set those dominoes up to fall, and I was like, he can kiss my ass. But anyway, sorry, I feel very strongly about his character. That's how you know he's a good actor, if you're getting this reaction out of me. So he goes upstairs, he starts shredding documents like he had fucking Kinko's or Staples. They don't even have Kinko's no more, do they? I'm telling my age, but anyway, I never even went to a Kinko's in my life. That's the funny part. So anyway, it next shifts to Beth and Monica in the kitchen. So Monica's getting breakfast ready. She's got like sausage, biscuits, all, you know, the typical fixings, eggs. Beth comes in, she's like getting her coffee, getting her whiskey or whatever. So then they have small talk. It's so funny seeing them both married and kind of like settling into domesticated living, even though Beth is still a career woman at heart and she's very good with like legalese and documentation and stuff. But Monica, she used to be a teacher, but I guess she's more of like a homemaker or like a stay-at-home wife or mom. So what was I finna say? So Monica tells her son Tate, she's like, go tell your dad breakfast is ready, Casey. So Casey's sitting outside, he's looking at an article on his phone about Sarah dying. So then he's like, Dad, you coming in? He's like, yeah, tell your mom I'll be there in a minute. So the detective that just questioned Jamie, the lead guy, calls Casey and he's like, what's up with this? He was like, all signs kind of pointing to your brother right now. He's like, did you know Sarah? And Casey's like, no, I didn't really know her. Like, I knew her and my brother were involved, but I don't really have anything to say about that because I don't really know her like that. So the detective is like, how does it look that your brother is having an affair, like sexually involved with this woman that tried to take down your dad and steal his land or get his land? And he's just like, if it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. Like, I was just like, God damn. So then after that call wraps up, Casey gets a call from his army buddy who agreed to help him find out who was responsible for orchestrating the assassination on his dad. So he sends him a contact of the organization, which is like, he's not the guy who committed the murder, but I don't know if you guys remember when Sarah was being interviewed by this like investigator and she was like, yeah, go ahead and kill John Dutton. And they were like, oh, do we do a heart attack? Do we do suicide? Do we do this? Or excuse me, unalive? And he was the one that said, let's do an unaliving because it's the most natural looking and it won't be traceable. But they were so sloppy with it and they didn't realize that Casey was like fucking ex-military and was like fucking sniper. Like, he's not stupid. He's gonna be like, this shit is fishy. And his daughter too. His kids are really fucking smart. Like, these people just did not think this through, but Sarah kind of underestimated that. So what was I finna say? Let me go back to that. So his friend is like, I'm about to send you this contact. He sends it to him through the phone. He's like, get rid of the phone. And he's like, get a new one. Like, get you a burner phone. Do what you need to do. I was like, it's giving Jason Bourne, baby. I used to love Jason Bourne. I should rewatch those. The movies didn't make sense to me as a kid, but I feel like if I watched it as an adult, I would have a different perspective. Because it was just like, oh, he's in an exotic location shooting people. And it's like, I'm sure there was more to it. And I know he was like, not a sleeper agent, but he was like, conditioned to be this like killing machine, but he had a life before and they kind of like took it from him. And I know he was like a special agent or like a project, kind of like a Captain America or Bucky from Captain America, but anyway, like a super soldier. So except he was a super assassin. So anyway, Casey goes in the house and he just completely ignores Monica and Tate, and I feel like sometimes he shirks his fatherly or husbandly duties because he gets so wrapped up in these like missions. He's still a soldier at heart. He can't help but want to see it through. He's like a horse with blinders on. He has tunnel vision. He can't see shit else. And sometimes I feel really bad for Monica and Tate, more so Monica because she's his wife. And I'm like, she doesn't deserve a husband that picks and chooses when he wants to. But I understand he feels like I have to avenge my father's death. So I kind of get both sides, but I feel like he has neglected her in the past and that's why they always have issues. And then he shuts her out and I was like, oh, that just broke my heart. But anyway, so he's like, Beth, can I talk to you for a second? So they go in another room. I think they go in the living room. The living room is decorated so beautifully. I was like, can I have this room? But anyway, like low-key, if I could have a cabin in the future, like, you know, have like a couple properties that like we can rotate between the family, like for vacations or leisure, I would totally love to have like a log cabin up in the mountains somewhere. But anyway, so Beth tells her about Sarah's death and is like, hey, the cops are on to Jamie. And then she immediately freaks out because she's like, oh my God, he's gonna sell our dad down the river and we're gonna be fucking next, bitch. Like all the secrets and all the things that we've had to do, like it's gonna come to light because he's not gonna be able to take the heat. So he's gonna throw us under the bus so he can get out of it, so he can like weasel his way out. So he's like, lay low because there's too many eyes on this. And she's like, I want all the smoke, baby. Like I can do it. It'll look more natural, or I can go more undercover versus if you or someone else in the family did it. And she's like, leave Jamie to me. I said, oh, bitch. I said, Beth is coming hell or high water, baby, and I'm ready for it. I need him to die. I need Jamie to die. Like, I'm so sick of him. And I'm like, this bitch is just going about his normal day. Like, he don't know he got a target on his back. I was like, first of all, you have a covert government organization who kill people, contracted killers that you were working with. And then, or maybe not, but indirectly, because through Sarah. And then your brother and your sister fucking hate your guts. And they know you have something to do with the murder. Like, you just, okay, I'm finna go to work. I'm finna go do that. I'm finna have sex. I'm finna do that. No, baby. I would have been... like, you know, I would have had, you know what, bitch? I would have been like fucking Joe from You with the fucking hat. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Drop it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. But if you just look up Joe from You, like him on the street, I'm like, he has the worst fucking disguises. I'm like, the fact that these women do not see him like in broad daylight, I'm just like, it's giving. I'm like, I can't. I don't even know what it's giving. I had a whole thought I was gonna say and I just lost it. So anyway, sorry, my armpit's itchy as fuck. So Rip is on horseback. I don't know why I said that like that. Rip is on horseback monitoring the herd with Lloyd and Kobe. They're at the Dutton Ranch in Montana, and he gets a call about Lloyd's horse that he's on, and he's like, oh, this sold to the highest bidder. Like, we need to get this ready so that we can transport the horse to the buyer. So then it flashes back to Teeter and the gang working with the 4-6's crew. And all this is in modern day. I don't think it's going back and forth from past to present anymore. I think it's all synonymous now. So Teeter and the gang are working with the 4-6's crew in Texas. They're loading cattle for transport because I believe they're going to be selling it, which is what Rip had originally intended to do. So then, this scene, I'm going to give you guys, I mean, this whole review is a fucking spoiler. This scene ate me the fuck up. So if I get really passionate or loud or start cussing, I'm gonna try my best to keep it together. But this scene was so, I was like, whoever wrote this, give them a goddamn raise. Let them be a showrunner of one of Taylor Sheridan's 20,001 shows. Because he has, I told Nick, I said, man, this man has so many shows. I was like, he's dominating Paramount. I think he had, was it 1885 or 1887? I don't remember the exact year. These are like Yellowstone spinoffs. 1923, he's got Landman, which has Billy Bob Thornton. We watched some of the first episode and it was actually pretty funny, but I was like, it's just giving Yellowstone 2.0. And then he has Lawman Base Reeves with David Oyelowo. He has some other stuff on, like, I'm like, how is this guy trending it out? And also Yellowstone, that's 5 shows. All on at the same time. They kind of rotate in and out. It's kind of like 90 Day Fiance. There's just so many spinoffs and franchises. I was like, oh my God. I was like, how is this man sleeping? But I was like, I bet you he's rolling in it. But I was like, I love that for him. Like, you like it, I love it. He made Westerns popular again. So anyway, Carter is cleaning up. He's in the stables. Carter is Beth and Rip's like adoptive son, which I kind of fucking abandoned. I was like, what happened with his storyline? I said this in another video. So he's cleaning up. He has to deal with a stubborn horse who he was instructed not to really interact with because the horse had such a bad temperament. So he notices that the horse, spilled his bucket of water that he put in the stall, like to feed it or to give it nourishment. Not feed it, but you know, for him to drink. So he notices it and he's like, all right, I'm gonna refill the bucket, because he was like, I should just like let you starve to death or let you die of thirst. And he, you know, refills it anyway, because, you know, Carter really does have a heart of gold. But the horse is still acting up. He's like whining. He's being loud. He's being like rambunctious. And I was like, this is not about to go well. Like, I thought something was going to happen to Carter. I just had a really bad feeling. And my heartbeat started racing. I was like, bitch, oh my God. So the horse attacks Carter. The horse like charges at him and he like knocks him over and he's like backed into a corner. So now he can't get out of the stall. He's trapped in there with like this beastly thing. And I'm just like, oh, bro, no. I was like, oh my gosh. Sidebar. If you've never gone, please go horseback riding. It is one of the best, most amazing experiences. I know I'm talking about something really traumatic and triggering, but it is fictionalized. But I do recognize that this could happen in real life, and I'm sure it has happened in real life to people, and I hope that people have not lost someone to this. But if you have not gone, please go, especially Black people. I say this for anybody to go, but Black people, we tend to stay with what we know and on our comfort zone. Please go. It was one of the most beautiful experiences I've had in my entire life. I could not believe I waited that long to go. The funny part is we were supposed to go on our honeymoon back in 2022 because we got married in the first week of November of that year. And we were supposed to go. We went to Disney World for our honeymoon, and I had it all booked, and it was so cheap. It was like $50 for two people. I just booked it on the Disney app, and I remember we were going to go. What were we doing? I think we were going to go return our rental car because it was almost. I think it was like the day before we had to leave. I think it was like Friday, and then we were leaving. We were flying back home Saturday, and we were turning the rental car, and it started fucking thunderstorming like 10 minutes before our appointment. And even on the way there to the rental car place, it started like getting gray, like showing the signs of like a storm. And I said to Nick, I was like, babe, I don't think we're going to be able to go because I was like, the weather. I was like, the horses are going to get spooked. It's probably really terrifying because I don't know if they know what it is. You know, animals are very sensitive to inclement weather. And he was like, no, it should be fine. I was like, no, I think it's going to get canceled. As we're at the rental car place and we're like arguing about it in front of the rental car lady, she was like dying laughing because she was like, you are so funny. Because I be roasting Nick. I do not. I be acting so crazy. Like, I'd be like, oh my God. Like, I know like customer service people be like, she's fucking nuts. But I just be trying to make people laugh really and just making Nick laugh. You know, I want people to smile. So they Disney called us and they were like, oh my God, was it Colorado Springs or something, that part of the resort? I don't remember which part, but they called and they're like, we're so sorry, we have to cancel your appointment. So then I decided for our 1-year anniversary, I was going to surprise him, and we went to a place that was like an hour from our house. It was gorgeous. It was like an hour-long ride. We had like a guide. She was in front of us, and we were just in like a line of 3. So it was her, me, and then Nick was in the back, and we just like went up the mountains. It was so peaceful. There was like little streams and creeks. I had the bad horse. The horse was so spicy with me. I was like, oh my God, he was being so bad. I think his name was Chaco. And Nick had one of those fancy horses. I forget what they're called, the ones with like the fancy hair on like the front of their hooves, and they have like the gorgeous manes. I forget the specific horse name, but it was so beautiful. Maybe I'll do like a story time or something about that. It was so peaceful. It was so healing. I was so afraid of that thing because it was huge. But then when I got on it, oh my God, I loved it. I was like, I would do this again in a heartbeat. Like, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I think I'll remember it until I'm like 70 or 80. Like, I would love to recreate that date, maybe like when we're 20 years in the game or 25 years, just as a reminder of like how far we've come from when we first got married to now. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. Please go. So anyway, so I tell you that Carter is cornered by the horse. So Colby comes looking for him. He's like calling for him, and he's like, oh my God, where are you? And then he goes in the stable and he sees that he's cornered by this horse. And keep in mind, Carter was told not to interact with it, which is what I said earlier. But so Colby like devises a plan to help him. And oh my God, this part next, it just broke my heart. The next part just hurt my heart. Sorry. So what was I finna say? So he finds this like tool. Nick says it was like a short little whip or something. I'm not sure exactly what it was. I'm not familiar with the terms or whatever, so don't beat me up too bad in the comments. So he's like, hey, I have this thing. He's like, I'm gonna like use this to distract the horse, and you crawl out, like hurry up, like, you know, what's the thing? What is it called? Put some hustle in it, like knees to chest, like hurry up. So he does, and then Carter gets out, but then Colby gets trapped in there and he gets trampled in there, and then he fucking dies. That scene hurt so bad because I was like, oh my God, Teeter is going to be devastated. I was like, her whole future just like crashed and burned right in front of my eyes. And I was like, the way he died was so fucking brutal. And I was like, he was heroic because he did save someone else. But I was like, oh my God, I was like, this could have been prevented. I was like, Carter, why didn't you listen? But I was like, he's just a kid. He was trying to be kind. He was trying to like give the horse sustenance, and the horse was just being an ass. And I had told Nick earlier in the episode, because I was just thinking about the logistics of being a cowboy and like being on a farm. And I was like, that job is probably so dangerous. We probably have no fucking idea. It's all glamorized and stuff in the media. But it was like, I was like, this job is so dangerous. I have so much respect for people who do this. I think Taylor Sheridan does a great job of showing life on the frontier and life on the farm and the ranch. Like, I have so much respect for people who do this for a living. So shout out to cowboys. Shout out to anybody who does any type of farm or agricultural work, because it is very admirable. And I know it's hard work, and I know it probably is not super lucrative. But anyway, so that happened. So then, girl, I have this note in my tablet that says, I called my mother-in-law screaming on the phone. I know she was dying. She was just laughing at me because I told you, like, when you're watching TV or any movies or any visual or anything of like substance with Black people, we're so animated, we're so loud. Like, Nick just be dying laughing because I told you, like, I'm the worst person to watch stuff with because I'm just so into it. I want to engage with it. I want to feel like I'm part of the show. I don't know. That's just my little contribution. And even I like tweeted about it. Also, I do have a Twitter for this channel. It's Amber No Filter 24. Go ahead and add me. I'm not the best with it, or I should say X. I'm not the best with Twitter. I'm trying to do better about it. I don't really know how to use it. So if you have any tips, please drop it in the comments. I just am posting like the channel, like the videos on there so I can try to attract more followers. But Twitter is my least favorite platform. I probably need to change my mindset about it so that I can attract better and, you know, more viewership. But anyway, where was I at? So yeah, I told you I called my mother-in-law screaming on the phone. She was dying laughing. And I said, girl, what part are you on? Because I don't want to ruin it for her in case she wasn't there. And she's like, girl, I'm still on the part where Jamie was shredding the papers. I said, oh, call me back in 15 or 20 minutes. And she did. And we was kikiing about that, which was really cute. So also, I don't know if I said this in the beginning of the video. Yes, I did. We didn't go over there. We stayed at our house. They only live like 10 minutes away. So I was like, probably next weekend, you know, this coming weekend and the weekend after, we'll probably go over there and watch the final 2 episodes. And I'm like, I'm sad because what am I supposed to do with my life? Just when it was getting good, it feels like it's being taken away from us. But I understand Taylor Sheridan and everyone who worked on the show, the actors, the crew, they probably want to do other projects. They probably have so many other things that they're looking forward to working on, but it is pretty neat seeing a show sustain for that long. Like, I think it's been on air for what, like 5, 6, 7 years. Like, that is a long chunk of time. Especially in Hollywood. So Carter feels bad and he blames himself. And Rip is like, hey, it's not your fault. Lloyd also consoles him. And then Rip goes out, you know, into the pasture or whatever, or into the corral. And he's like, he calls Ryan to tell him the bad news about losing Colby. And then Colby, you know, gets off the phone with him. Or excuse me, Ryan. I put Colby here. Excuse me, Colby's already passed. Ryan then tells Teeter, who breaks down in tears. And my heart just was, as it was like leading up to them telling her, I was like yelling at the screen because I was like, I'm so worried about her. I was like, she is going to break. She is going to be distraught. I was like, rightfully so. Like, she just lost the love of her life. She just lost a really good partner. They had plans, you know. I was like, they could have gotten married. They could have had kids. They could have, you know, grown in their careers. Like, everything has, you know, been flushed down the drain. And I was like, she probably doesn't know what to do without him because that was like her best friend / boyfriend. Like, even though they were, Teeter's not overly affectionate, but you could tell that they really loved each other and that they really had a deep care for each other, even though it wasn't always portrayed. But they were like the dynamic duo, and it's just like, this loss is going to change her forever. I actually felt like I was in her shoes. I was like, I've never lost anyone like that, especially a relationship or a partner. But I can empathize with that loss and how it fundamentally changes you and how that trauma never goes away and how you have to adjust to a new normal following this type of loss. So I was like, hats off to the writers, hats off to the director, hats off to the actors, like anyone involved with that scene, cameraman, everyone. It was just so well told and so beautifully told, even though it was such a painful scene. So what was I gonna say? The gang packs up, you know, the gang that's in Texas at the 4-6s, they head home, or I think they're heading home. And on the drive back, Ryan tells everyone how Colby passed. And Ryan makes a comment about it being quick and him not suffering. And Teeter gives like the most iconic response, I feel. And she's like, suffering is a part of the job. Like, being a cowboy is not for the weak. It's a very dangerous job. And I was just like, that's genuinely true. Like, even though I'm not a cowboy, I've not really been around it, I'm not exposed to that world, I definitely can see how it would be dangerous, especially working with animals and equipment even. So next we see Casey and Tate. They're kind of like out in the pasture near the family graveyard, and which I actually think is kind of symbolic, low-key. So they're putting chains in a tractor, and Nick said it was for them to go bury the horse that killed Kobe. It didn't register to me. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but good catch on his part. So Tate asked about, you know, where are we going to bury him? And I think Tate thought he was talking about, or excuse me, I think Casey thought that Tate was asking about Kobe, who just passed. And he's like, no, I'm talking about granddad. I'm talking about John. And Casey's like, to Tate, he's like, hey, that's for you to decide. And he's like, I just want to be close to you. Whatever you want, I want. And Tate is like, is this our home, Dad? And he's like, no, it's not anymore. Because they just keep suffering loss after loss, setback after setback. Like, it's not the same, especially without the patriarch of the family. So Tate tells him, he's like, Dad, I don't want to bury you at all. He's like, I don't want to anywhere. Like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to deal with it. And I'm like, is that foreshadowing? I don't know if Tate's going to die or Casey or Monica. I just feel like something bad's going to happen. If they kill Casey, I'm going to lose it. Probably going to be live tweeting. So watch out for that. So let me see. Casey is like, that beats the alternative. Like, I don't want to bury you. So Casey then makes a call and he asks for a favor. Who he made the call to is not clear, but I'm sure we'll find out in a future episode. And the person on the other end says something about, he's like, hey, I gotta ask for a favor. And he's like, well, yeah, it comes at a price, it comes at a risk. And I thought that was very interesting because I was like, what kind of favor is you asking for? So let me see. Let me get a sip of water. Sorry, I've been talking for a little bit. Sidebar. I'm drinking this blackberry mango sparkling water and this Chef's Kiss. I think it's seltzer water. I think they're the same to me. I know they're probably a little bit different in how they're made, but it tastes fine to me. It's polar and it's so freaking good. They come in this big bottle. The bottle is like this big and it's like $1, $2. It's so fucking cheap. So, what was I gonna say? Beth goes to collect Colby's belonging from the Cowboys, like quarters, their cabin. And she's like, hey, I'm collecting this for Colby's mom. She's like, Lloyd, can you show me where it's at? So he does. And then there's a cowboy hat resting on his pillow. And Beth is like, hey, is this an omen? Like, isn't that supposed to be symbolic for bad luck? And he's like, it is, but, you know, more so when the luck has run out, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I wonder if that was like a spiritual component to it. Like maybe that person is watching over you, or maybe they're at rest, their spirit's at peace. I'm not exactly sure what that meant, but I thought that was an interesting line that the writers put in there. So then he's like, she's getting ready to take it. And he's like, hey, leave it on the bed. He's like, Colby has a lady friend coming to pick it up. You know, she'll need something of his to hold on to, you know, preserve his memory. And I thought that was really sweet. And she's like, yeah, I can do that. Beth was actually so sweet in this episode. She was very maternal and loving. And I just love that for her. Like, I want to see more of that side, not more of her always turning up, smoking cigarettes, cussing motherfuckers out, beating up men in bars and shit like that. So Beth asks about Carter and they're like, we don't know where he is. So then, she goes into the stable where it happened and the cowboy's cleaning it up, you know, like the blood and everything from the accident that just happened. I don't know what the cowboy's name is. I don't feel like I've seen him before. I feel like he might be a new character, or maybe he was a background character that has become a main because of Colby passing. I'm not too sure. I didn't write down his name because I didn't hear it. Something else I've noticed is there's so many characters, sometimes it's hard to keep track of the names and the storylines and stuff like that. The main ones we know are like the family or like people that are closely associated to them, like a sidekick or something. But a lot of like the more minor characters, it's hard to remember all their names. Like I know their faces and I know generally what's going on with them, but a lot of the times I don't. I'd be having to look stuff up. So Beth asked the cowboy, where did they bury the horse? And he's like, we fed it to the wolves. And I was like, oof, that's tough. That could be symbolic for Jamie also. Ooh, I just thought about that, like his fate, you know? So she's like, hey, do you know where Carter is? And he's like, oh, he's in the tech room back there. So she finds him in the room, like the guy said, and she's like, hey, that room is so symbolic to Beth and Rip's love story, because that was the room where Rip used to sleep, and she would go visit him there and they would be intimate, even though they were younger. They were kids, they didn't know what they were doing. And she's like, hey, you know, I fell in love in this room. She basically telling him like, I fell in love with your dad here. She's like, I also got pregnant in this room. And then she's like, I also told the love of my life I never wanted to see him again. Because she lied, because I think she was so ashamed of her, you know, unaliving her unborn baby. And she did that to push him away, but she was also going away to college. So it was like Beth and Rip reunited in their adulthood. And they were always meant to be. I feel like the stars were definitely aligned for them two to be together. So, and then Carter's like, well, why'd you do that? And she like starts explaining. She's like, I was ashamed, I was scared. And she's like, you know, your dad was sitting right there in that spot. So she's kind of like fondly looking back, but also realizing that painful things tend to happen in that room. That place has a history to it, an energy to it. So she's like, you know, we take things out on the ones we love the most for some reason. I was like, that is so fucking true. Like I've said to you in previous videos, I need to do better about this. Sometimes I feel like I really blow up at Nick, and it's like, this is something I need to handle. You can't be projecting your stuff on him, your issues on him. But I feel like we do, because we almost know that they can take it, but they don't deserve it. So, so she consoles him. She's like brushing his hair from his forehead, being maternal, being loving. And she's like, are you blaming yourself? And he's like, well, who else is there to blame? And she's like, there's no one to blame it on. Like, it just happened. Like, it was an accident. It was a mistake. It was just something, you know, not to diminish it because it was still fucked up. It was still sad. But she's like, you know, everybody involved was blaming themselves for different reasons. And she's like, or themselves, not their selves, because I don't think that's a word. But she's like, you know, your dad's probably blaming himself because he could have, you know, he should have sold that horse to prevent something like this from happening. She's like, you know, she's like, you're blaming yourself for something else. She's like, Lloyd's blaming himself for some reason I can't name. And she's like, you know, you need to, excuse me. Let me take a sip of water in my throat. I feel like it like phlegmy a little bit. Hold on. Sorry, you know when you start talking and you feel like a little in the back of your throat. So she's like, hey, you can do one of two things. She's like, you can either honor Kobe's sacrifice or you can squander it. And I said, bitch, she ain't never said truer words. I said, that was so wise. Beth has such strong moments where she can be very vulnerable, but very insightful. And I love that about her character. Again, excuse my hoarse ass voice. Why has Kelly Riley not been nominated for more awards? She needs to be in the Oscars. She needs to be in the Emmys. Like, she eats with her character. The way she plays this woman, like, is incredible. I'm like, where is the accolades? Like, this show is actually incredible. Why is it not being nominated? Why is it not being on the bigger stage? Like, it's an incredible show. I don't know why. Maybe it has been nominated and maybe it just hasn't won. I'm not too sure. I haven't done my research on that, but I think that she deserves an award. Her, Rip, I'm trying to think who else. Those are the two that come to mind immediately. I know there's more actors who deserve it, but her, out of anybody, she's carried the show from day one. Season 1 through season 5. She's on it. So I'll be watching for her. So anyways, she's like, hey, hun, like, hey, babe, don't wallow in your sorrow alone. You need to lean on family. And he's like, I don't got a family. And she's like, sure you do. And it was just so soft and vulnerable, but also like poignant. Like, she had like the sadness in her eyes, but also like I love you, son, you need to see that I love you. And it was just so touching. Like, I even wrote in my comments, this scene touched my heart. So Beth goes home to console Rip and she pours him a drink and she's like, hey, I'm gonna start a fire. And he's like, well, it's too hot for one. And she, you know what, Rip is right. Beth has a reason for everything she does. She's very intentional. I can say that too about her. So he's like, it's too hot for a fire. And she's like, I know, but I just like looking at them. But she did it deliberately. She, like I said, she had made him a drink and she's like, hey, throw your glass in the fire. And he's like, why? And she's like, you need to throw something so you don't bottle in your pain. And I thought that was so intelligent of her to say, like, emotionally intelligent. And she's making herself a drink and he does throw it. And then she makes him a fresh drink and she makes herself one and they kind of sit together. And she's like, you know, it's bad when I'm the therapist of the family, when I'm the one giving out advice and asking people what their needs are and how I can serve them. And so she's like, babe, what do you need? How can we get rid of this pain and your guilt? And he's like, the only two things I need to get through this is time and you. And I was just like, oh, I was like, Nick would say something like that. So then I'm wrapping up here soon. I have like maybe 5 or 6 more bullet points, maybe a couple more than that. So I'm sorry, so much has happened in this episode. And again, I loved this episode. This was probably my favorite one, like I said. So the next scene, we see Casey packing up tactical gear at his house with Monica, the house that they just moved and they like remodeled, refurbished and all the things. So Monica is like, you care to explain like where you're going, what's up? And he's like, no. He's like, I'm doing what's best for the ranch. I'm doing what's best for you. And I'm just like, in your mind, sure. But I'm like, you know, remember how I said that Jake Sully said in Avatar 2, The Way of Water, like protecting a family, like that's what gives a father meaning and purpose. I was like, in his mind, that's probably the same, you know, kind of train of thought that he has or belief system. So he's like, I can see it now. I know exactly what the fuck to do. Just like, let me handle my business. And I'm like, ooh, it's giving Jason Bourne again. So he's like, believe in me. And she's like, I always have. And she's like, promise me you'll come home. And he says yes. And then he just walks the fuck out. He like barely kisses his wife. But I think I said to Nick, I was like, he was kind of cold, or he was a little bit more like, he's usually much more gentler or softer with Monica. But I think he had to turn that part of himself off to get himself in tactical mode, in killer mode. And I was like, I kind of respect that, because you can't let your emotions blind you when you're doing that type of thing. Like, it's just such a crazy act to be doing to someone, but he knows it needs to be done, because he's like, I want all the smoke for whoever took my family away from me, which, you know, is his dad. So the next morning we see Monica in the kitchen cooking again, and Beth joins her. She's making a cup of coffee. She's got her infamous cigarettes, because one thing Beth gonna do is have cigarettes, and she gonna have her fucking whiskey. She don't play about those two things, and she don't play about her family either. Excuse me. So Beth asked her to tell Casey to join her on the porch, and she's like, oh, he left last night. Like, I'm not sure where he's at, but he had to go take care of something. And so the next scene kicks off with, remember how I told you that guy that was talking to Sarah in that investigator room or that private room? It shows him, and he's coaching like his kids' soccer team or something. And Casey, the guy's getting in his car, he's getting his daughter settled in the car, and then Casey is like watching from behind a tree, and then he sneaks in the back seat. He's got a gun pointing to this guy's daughter's head. I said, God damn, he's not fucking around. I said, I'm ready to see Casey go into killer mode, because it's a long time coming. So Casey's like, do you know who the fuck I am? And he's like, you about to know now. So he's like, I'm about to paint this car red with your daughter's blood if you don't do what the fuck I tell you to do. He's like, you took from me, so I'm going to take from you. And I said, God damn. I said I would have gave Casey some draws right then and there. But anyway, I joke with my mother-in-law. I said, if me and your son don't work out, I'm going for Casey. No, I'm not. Luke Grimes is the actor who plays him. He is happily married and he's expecting his first child. But in my mind, we go together. Sorry to his wife. So, what was I finna say? So he's like, bitch, I know where your wife work. I know where your parents live. I know your address. I know your work schedule. I know it all. So play with me if you want to. Like, I was like, God damn. And I could tell that loss really is driving Casey. Like, all he sees is red right now. And I said, rightfully so. You killed my dad and then made it look like he was a weak bitch and committed unaliving. Like, no. So he's like, you might want to move. And he says his address and he's like, I might fall back on this deal that I just made with you. So do what the fuck I tell you to do, or there's going to be consequences. So there was a very interesting line, and I think this is the title of the episode, which is Counting Coup. And I've never heard of this before, but it was really, really clever. Again, the writing is picking up. The writing is writing. Like, it is serving, and I'm loving it. Like, the inner writer in me is like, oh my gosh. You ever watch something as like a creative, or just like in general for admiration? You're like, I wish I could have been a part of this. I wish I could have written this or created this or directed this. Sometimes I'm watching stuff and I'm like, bitch, I wish. Like, Succession was that for me as well. I was like, I wish I could have like written a script or been on set just to soak it up, because I was like, the script writing is fucking phenomenal. I was like, I can't. So Casey says this line. He's like, it's called Counting Coup. He was like, I took a piece of your soul and I'm gonna keep it. Like, now you belong to me. And I said, God damn. So Casey's like, all right, I'm about to get the fuck out of the car. He's like, you take off, don't look back. You look back, you and your daughter are. I said, oh. So then Escalade truck or whatever comes by after the guy takes off, and he doesn't look back because he know Casey ain't fucking around. And he's picked up by Mo. Chief, is it Stillwater or Rainwater? Good Lord, I can't remember his name because, again, there's so many characters, it's hard to remember who. He's picked up by his right-hand man, and he's like, did you count the coup? And Casey's like, yes, and then it cuts off. And I was like, bravo, bitch. I was so happy. I was like, this episode is tight. And I was so hot because they were like, oh, there's only 2 more episodes, 1 more after next week's. And I said, bitch, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You done dominated my life for about the past month, and now you're like, okay, so wrap it up. Like, we good. We're washing our hands clean. This was an incredible episode. I would definitely say 10 out of 10, A+ writing, A+ directing, A+ acting. Like, it was such a heavy episode, but the way they set it up for the next week, I was like, I'm so fucking ready. Like, I'm so excited. I told you in the beginning it was a little slow, but obviously they have to pick back up and they have to build that story and they have to get you invested so that we can get to the meat and potatoes of the story. I just want to see a couple of things. I want to see what happens to Casey's family, because there's just these little inklings that something is going to go left, and I'm like, please don't kill the child. I'm like, but also he can't afford to lose Monica. I was like, if he loses Monica, he loses everything. But also I want to see Jamie get fucked up. I want to see Beth get her revenge, whatever that looks like. I want to see the ranch be saved. I don't know what else I want to see. I'm just curious what they're going to do. I'm curious, what will happen to Jimmy now that he's lost the man that made him. I'd be curious to see a spinoff about him, because I totally watch. I also want to see what's going to happen with Teeter and how she'll move through life now that she's lost someone who's so important to her. She's lost like her family in a sense. Like, he was like her rib in a sense, yeah, I don't know. I just really fucking love this episode. I'm so happy I re-recorded this as well, because I think this one is way better than the one I had before. I was just very like jumbling my words because I was so excited. I was just talking way too fast, and I was like, I need to slow down. I probably still talk fast in this one, but anyway, I love a good show. I love good writing. I love good acting. I love good directing. TV is such an important medium, I love it. Like, I just, oh, it's one of my favorite things. I just am so fascinated by how people put this together. It's just incredible that these people work on these projects for weeks and months and years, and they are so committed. Like, it's so admirable. So anyway, this concludes my review. I hope you guys love it. Please interact in the comments. I'm loving the feedback that I'm getting on some of my other videos. I would love to hear more feedback from the other ones. I have a couple other ones coming out. You know, I'm trying not to record too much because last week I recorded like way too many, and then new stuff was coming in and I felt overwhelmed. So my goal is to try to do a couple, you know, like on Sunday to set the tone for the new week, and then kind of filter in other stories as it comes. But I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do in my life when when Yellowstone ends, but I'm sure there'll be other opportunities and other TV for me to cover. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that you're watching that you want me to review or want me to take a look at. You know, I'm open to ideas. I'm more of a action family drama. I think I'm more of a family drama type of person. If the story is good enough, I'll give it a chance. I mean, Arcane was not my first go-to. My husband actually turned me on to it, and I actually fell in love with it. If the story's good, I'll follow it. I'll give it a chance. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope you have a great week. I hope you really like this review because I enjoy doing it for you. Take care. Bye.